What if I told you that some of the most alien landscapes in the universe aren't on Mars, but right here under our feet? Deep within the blue vastness of the ocean, or high atop forbidden plateaus, there are pockets of existence that defy every rule of modern life. We're talking about islands within volcanoes, whispers on abandoned beaches, and trees that bleed red resin under a desert sun. This isn't just a travel guide. It's a deep dive into the Earth's most well-kept secrets. I've gathered these locations specifically for those who, like me, still feel a sense of wonder for the unexplained. It's about the thrill of the what if. I'm thrilled to have you here on the channel. If you're a fan of the mysterious and the beautiful, feel free to subscribe and join our global expedition. Now, let's peel back the curtain on these incredible wonders and start the show. The volcano's pulse, Aogashima. Picture a sanctuary where the very earth beneath your boots seems to possess a steady, rhythmic heartbeat. In the center of Japan's vast cerulean expanse lies an island called Aogashima, a place that defies every rule of human survival. This is no mere island. It is an active volcano with an entire village nestled deep within its crater. To make things even more surreal, this volcano sits inside a second, much larger crater. Fewer than 200 souls have chosen this secluded life, dwelling behind massive stone ramparts that soar 656 feet high, almost always draped in a ghostly white mist. Reaching this forgotten world requires facing a helicopter ride or tiny vessels that are completely at the mercy of the wind's whim and the ocean's temper. It is a community that decided to embrace peril to preserve the traditions of their forefathers on a sliver of land that feels as though it is drifting between our modern reality and something ancient and unknown. Living inside a volcano is the ultimate testament that nature always holds the final word in our lives. Mary's Garden, Mount Athos. There is a corner of Greece where the clocks stopped ticking over 1,000 years ago, back during the height of the Byzantine Empire. On Mount Athos, stone monasteries seem to sprout directly from the sheer cliffs, precariously balanced over the deep, dark waters of the sea. Everything there was built piece by piece, stone by stone, by human hands driven solely by faith. The silence is so heavy you can hear your own thoughts echoing, and machines of any kind are strictly forbidden to ensure the sacred peace remains unbroken. Daily life does not follow seconds or minutes. Instead, it moves with the slow arc of the sun and the rhythm of prayers that never cease. Ancient legends whisper that the Virgin Mary herself chose this mountain to be her private garden. From afar, the towers shimmer in the daylight like a dream of absolute serenity, untouched by the chaos consuming the rest of the modern planet. The adobe fortress, Taos Pueblo. In the arid lands of the United States, time seems to have struck a peace treaty with history. In Taos Pueblo, people live exactly as they have for over 1,000 years without changing a single syllable of their culture. Their homes are crafted from red clay, straw, and water, forming 5-story structures that appear to grow straight from the soil, as if the earth were reaching for the heavens. The residents take immense pride in their heritage and refuse the use of electricity or indoor plumbing, choosing instead to honor the memory of those who came before. Under the fierce desert sun, the red adobe glows with an intense hue, creating an organic fortress that breathes and whispers secrets to those who know how to listen. It is living proof that progress does not have to erase who we once were, and that resilience can be just as beautiful as a work of art. Colors of the Abyss, Valparaíso. In Valparaíso, Chile, the houses seem to be in a slow-motion race toward the ocean, balanced precariously on the hillsides. Hundreds of feet above the sea, roofs made of wood and scrap metal from old ships form a rainbow that defies gravity. Instead of flat sidewalks, the people rely on rattling funiculars built in the 19th century to traverse the city's heights. It is a place where survival is an art form, and every resident tends to the abyss as if it were their own backyard. Creativity explodes on every wall painted with vibrant murals, transforming the fear of falling into a visual celebration of life. There, risk is not a problem, but rather the spice that makes existence feel more real and colorful, proving that even on the edge of a precipice, one can build a home filled with joy. Valparaíso shows us that even on the brink of the abyss, humanity always finds a way to paint life in color. The suspended oasis, Ahmadiyya. High in the mountains of Kurdistan, there is a village that feels as though it was sculpted for the gods. Ahmadiyya sits atop a perfectly flat rock plateau, completely severed from the valley stretching out below. From a distance, the city looks like a stone disk, floating amidst the clouds, protected by giant cliffs on all sides. For hundreds of years, this fortress was considered impossible for enemies to conquer. The road to the top is a series of hairpin turns that requires great patience, but the reward is pure air and a tranquility that the wars of the world below could never reach. It is the purest example of how human beings have sought out isolation and the heights to find the harmony we so desperately miss in the frantic pace of modern life. Standing atop Ahmadiyya is to understand that sometimes we must distance ourselves from the world to finally find ourselves. The Endless Staircase, Kalimantan. Imagine climbing a peak 200 feet high where every single step was carved directly into the raw stone. In India, the fort of Kalimantan offers this challenge to those with nerves of steel, as there are no handrails, ropes, or any form of protection to prevent a fall. It is one of the most treacherous paths on the planet, hand-built in an era where the only safety a man had was his own courage. When the heavy fog embraces the mountain, the steps seem to lead you into another dimension, far from reality. It is a place that demands deep respect from the soul, where the wind howls and the height tests every beat of your heart. There, you discover that human limits are far greater than we usually imagine in our safe, everyday lives. The City of Waves, Rovinj. On the coast of Croatia, the houses of Rovinj are so close to the sea that waves often crash directly against the first-floor window panes during storms. Long ago, this place was a separate island, and to this day, you can find bits of shells and coral embedded in the stones of the house walls. Artists say the light that hits the city has a different glow, something that touches the heart and draws painters from across the globe. When night falls, mysterious green lights shimmer from the depths of the sea, fueling old tales that time moves slower here than on the rest of the continent. Rovinj is like a perfect slice of frozen history, where the scent of salt and the sound of water create an atmosphere that feels like it was plucked from the pages of a fairy tale. Hearing the sea beat against your window is a reminder that nature and civilization can indeed dance together. The alien planet, Socotra. If you have ever dreamed of visiting another planet, Socotra is the closest place to it on Earth. Located in Yemen, nearly 40% of all the plants that grow there exist nowhere else in the world. The trees known as dragon's blood look like umbrellas turned inside out by the wind, and they leak a dark red resin as if they were bleeding. The locals speak an ancient language unlike anything you have ever heard, and live in total balance with jagged mountains and sand dunes as white as snow. Socotra is a living laboratory where evolution decided to take a completely bizarre and wonderful path for millions of years, creating a landscape that challenges our imagination and makes us feel small before the mystery of creation. Socotra teaches us that the deepest beauty often hides within the strangest and most unfamiliar forms of life. The Golden Dance, Jellyfish Lake. In the islands of Palau, there is a hidden lake that guards millions of tiny creatures that shine like suns beneath the water. These are golden jellyfish that have been trapped there for thousands of years and eventually lost their sting, allowing you to swim among them without any fear. But this paradise holds a dark secret. The lake is divided into two layers, and the deepest part is filled with a gas that can be fatal to humans. On the surface, the spectacle is hypnotizing, with millions of golden pulses following the sunlight. It is such a delicate balance that even a bit of sunscreen on our skin can kill these fragile beings. It is a visual reminder of how powerful nature is, yet how much it relies on us to continue existing in all its beauty. Swimming among these tiny suns is like diving into a parallel universe where fragility and beauty are one and the same. The turquoise mirror, Kolchak Lake. High above, at an elevation of 5,577 feet, lies a secret guarded by giant ancient pines. Kolchak Lake, nestled on the western slope of the Enchantments in Chelan County, Washington, possesses a turquoise color so vibrant that many people believe it is a painting or something artificial, but it is entirely the work of nature. Its waters are so clean and calm that the snow-capped mountain peaks are reflected on the surface like a perfect mirror spanning 86 acres. The silence that dominates the area is so profound that you feel as though time itself has decided to take an eternal rest there. It is a refuge of peace, hidden in the wild woods, where total isolation makes every visitor feel like the first human being to discover a treasure hidden by the earth itself, far from any noise or worry of the modern world. There are places where the silence is so beautiful that any spoken word feels like a waste of time and energy. The Sanctuary of Silence, Lawudogompa. In the frozen heart of the Himalayas, 12,008 feet above the sea, the Lawudogompa Monastery seems to touch the heavens. Reaching it is not just a challenge for the legs due to the difficult terrain, but also a test for the spirit. This sacred place is tied to deep stories of monks and reincarnations that have kept Tibetan traditions alive for hundreds of years. The absolute silence of the monastery is swallowed by low passing clouds, creating a state of peace where the noise of cities and modern worries feel like memories of a life that never existed. There, you learn that true height is not measured in feet or meters, but in the distance you can travel inside yourself, searching for answers that only absolute isolation can offer the human heart. The Purple Waters, Amethyst Lake. Hidden among granite mountains at an altitude of 9,842 feet, Amethyst Lake guards a phenomenon that no one can fully explain. On certain cold mornings, its waters take on a light purple hue that feels like magic, as there are no algae or minerals at the bottom to cause such a color. Surrounded by quartz stones, many believe the lake generates a magnetic field capable of changing how people perceive the passage of time. It is a setting that seems to have come from another planet, where the clash between soft water and heavy rocks creates an emotion that remains etched in the mind forever. Visiting this place is like stepping into a canvas painted by nature itself to remind us that the world still holds secrets that science has not yet fully decoded. The Ice Abyss, Keystone Canyon. In Alaska, Keystone Canyon is a giant crack in the earth, surrounded by massive cliffs from which waterfalls cascade in what seems like a never-ending fall. When the harsh winter arrives, these waters freeze instantly, forming gargantuan ice sculptures that resemble crystals hanging in the air. It is nature in its rawest and wildest state, where the only sound heard is the crackling of ice settling on the stones and the constant howl of the freezing wind. Being a place almost untouched and free of crowds, you can feel the pulse of the wilderness and read the history of the earth engraved in ancient rocks. It is a place that makes us feel small and teaches us to respect the power of the ice, showing that beauty can be cold, yet still capable of warming our sense of wonder. The ice of Keystone Canyon is proof that even the most powerful movement can be paused by pure beauty. The Lake of Blood, Lake Natron. In Tanzania, there is a place that looks like a horror movie set, but it is entirely real. Lake Natron has waters of a deep blood red and a terrifying power. It can turn animals into stone statues. With temperatures reaching 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and a chemical makeup so strong it burns skin instantly, it is one of the most dangerous places in the world. The creatures that perish there end up mummified by the salt, preserved in dark and perfect forms for many years. Even so, life finds a way, and thousands of flamingos use this place as a nursery for their chicks. It is a location where death and life walk hand in hand in a chemical dance that both fascinates and frightens us, demonstrating the sheer power of adaptation. Lake Natron teaches us that life can flourish even in the places that seem made only for death. The colored mirrors, potash ponds. In the middle of the dry Utah desert, squares of a blue so intense they seem to glow emerge from the earth as if they were giant jewels left behind by titans. These are the potash ponds, lakes created to extract vital minerals from deep underground. The salt water slowly evaporates under the hot sun and leaves behind crystals that shimmer in colors that seem otherworldly. The visual is so strange that NASA scientists visit the site to try and understand what life might be like on the planet Mars. It is the perfect meeting between human labor and the natural chemistry of the Earth, creating a colorful work of art that looks like it was painted by someone from a galaxy far, far away, transforming the empty desert into an unforgettable visual spectacle. These blue lakes prove that when man and nature blend, the result can be something truly celestial. The Forest of Knives, Chingi de Bemaraha. In Madagascar, rain and wind work together for millions of years to carve the ground into thousands of stone needles as sharp as knives, standing over 328 feet high. The name Singi means the place where one cannot walk barefoot, and that is no joke. It is a perilous labyrinth of cutting rocks that serves as a home to animals that exist nowhere else on the planet. Local legends tell that the spirits of the ancients dwell in the deep crevices where sunlight barely reaches. When the sun hits the tips of these stones, the effect is brilliant and magical, as if you were walking across a world made of pure crystal and ancient secrets. It is a natural fortress where beauty cuts and mystery lies in every dark fissure. Walking upon the stones of Madagascar is to understand that nature's protection sometimes comes in the form of thorns. The giants of Colombia, Cocora Valley. Imagine walking through a forest where the palm trees are so tall, their canopy disappears into the clouds, reaching heights of 200 feet. In the Cocora Valley of Colombia, these giant trees create a landscape that feels more like a childhood dream than real life. The weather there is temperamental and shifts in seconds, with mist dancing between the thin, long trunks. This valley is considered a sacred place, where you feel you are being watched by the spirit of the mountains as you walk. It is nature proving it can touch the sky in a simple yet majestic way, creating a sense of peace and humility in anyone lucky enough to look up and see these green giants embracing the firmament. Looking at the palms of Kokora is to learn that growing requires strength, but also the lightness to sway with the wind. The rock that hears, Rattlesnake Ledge. At an elevation of 1,161 feet, there is a stone platform in Washington that seems to observe everything happening in the forest below. The name rattlesnake does not come from actual snakes, but from the strange sound the wind makes when it passes through the cracks in the rock, creating a whistle that sounds like a constant warning. On nights when the moon is full, shadows and light create shapes that resemble glowing eyes watching over visitors. Many say that cell phones and cameras stop working near the edge, and when the mist arrives, the feeling is that the real world has vanished and you have been pulled into a place where the rules of physics no longer apply. It is a place of pure mystery, where the earth seems to have ears and well-kept secrets. There are places in nature that were not meant to be explained, only felt with a bit of a shiver in the soul. The miraculous spring, Phugtal Monastery. This monastery in India is an unbelievable sight, looking like a beehive clinging to the face of a completely vertical cliff. The great secret of this place is a hidden cave at its center, from which flows pure water of an unknown origin that has never run dry in hundreds of years. Ancient tales say a great master made the water appear as a miracle to save the monks. To get there, the effort is massive, trekking miles through dangerous paths alongside raging rivers. Today, the monastery uses solar panels for light, uniting the cutting edge of modernity with the millennial wisdom of living in total isolation. It is a refuge where the body tires, but the spirit finds a source of energy that seems to have no end. Vugtal teaches us that water and faith are the only things we truly need to survive in isolation. The Beach of Whispers, Rosario Beach. In Washington, there is a beach with waters so clear and stones so green with moss that silence seems to own the place. But locals and visitors say this silence deceives many. There are frequent reports of people hearing soft whispers near the waves, even when they are entirely alone on the sand. Some feel chills and unexplained mood shifts when they get close to certain rocks that bear ancient patterns carved by the force of water and time. It is a place where the border between what we see and what we feel becomes very thin, as if the sea were trying to tell us stories from thousands of years ago. It is an invitation to close your eyes, try to hear what nature is trying to say through the sound of the foam. At Rosario Beach, the waves bring messages that only the heart and not the ears can truly understand and keep. The real mirage, Xargilain. In the middle of the Sahara Desert, where the heat is capable of confusing the mind, there is a hot spring that never stops flowing. No one can say for sure where this water comes from in such a parched place. The landscape is a stunning clash between the intense yellow of the sand and the vivid green of the palm trees growing around it. When the sun begins to set, the light splits into various layers of color, making the ground appear to be floating in mid-air. They say the sand of Xargilan is so special that it can swallow any sound, creating a vacuum of absolute silence that is almost deafening. It is a place where clocks lose their purpose and nature seems to play with our eyes, challenging everything we think we know about the desert. Sargalane is proof that, in the middle of nowhere, life always finds a way to immensely surprise us. The land that breathes snow, Thompson Pass. This place in Alaska is the snow champion of the United States, with nearly 972 inches of ice falling in just one season. When the cold drops below 45 degrees Fahrenheit, below zero, the sunlight creates colorful circles in the frozen mist that are breathtaking. There are videos showing strange lights floating in the cold air that no scientist has been able to explain yet. It is a land of infinite white that seems to have a life of its own and breathes, where mysterious figures pass through the snow without leaving a single footprint on the ground. The entire landscape is reflected in the sky, as if it were a frozen mirror, creating an upside-down world where ice rules and man is but a marveled observer. Thompson Pass reminds us that extreme cold keeps secrets and lights that the heat will never be able to show us. Tarkine Forest. Imagine a place where time decided to walk a little slower. In the northwest of Tasmania, there is a green sanctuary called Tarkine, or as the ancient owners of the land call it, Takena. This forgotten kingdom spreads across 1,112,000 acres of pure wilderness. We are not talking about just any woods, but the largest cool temperate rainforest in all of Australia, and the second largest still breathing on our planet. It is a labyrinth of trees that seem to touch the ceiling of the world, where wild rivers cut through the earth like veins filled with pure energy. Walking there, you feel the weight of history beneath your feet, especially when you come across Aboriginal archaeological sites that hold secrets thousands of years old. The average temperature in winter usually sits around 48 degrees Fahrenheit, which keeps the moss constantly shimmering and the air filled with that scent of damp earth that calms the soul. Research indicates that some of these trees watched empires rise and fall while they remained motionless. It is a vastness of green that embraces deserted beaches and forests so ancient they make us feel small, the size of an ant. It is the kind of place that looks back at you and asks if you truly know the meaning of the word silence. Walking among these trees is like listening to the whisper of ancestors who cared for this world long before us. From the heights of the Himalayas to the red waters of Tanzania, the world is truly a masterpiece. Which of these hidden gems did you find the most surreal? Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to stay tuned for more global discoveries